Facebook. This is Mac and Jet live. Our first time going live from our new Facebook page. Please, ma'am, please, sir, if you're watching this video, or if you later come on, please like and share. Like our page, follow our page, and share this video. Share, share, share. We want to get the word out to as many people as possible. We're trying to get our viewership up, and we need input from as many directions as we can get it. So please, ma'am, please, sir, follow the Mac and Jet Facebook page and share our material.
Mike and Jet live again. Interesting topics that we're going to have for you. Today's topic is going to be a little serious at the beginning. We're going to talk about the war in Russia and Ukraine and kind of what it means for America, what it means for Ohio, what it means for the Ohio Valley. And of course, we always break it down. What does it mean for the black community as it relates to politics and some of the effects that we're going to see from this war, whether it's the sanctions that is put on Russia and the effects that it may have on us with inflation, what it may have on us and as it relates to business, as it dealing with China. There's a lot of, I tell you what, there's a lot of indirect things that's going to happen from this war, and a lot of excuses that will be put on this war. We're going to discuss that a little bit. And then we're going to get into a little lighter subject, which will be the NBA playoffs. And what we're going to do is get some predictions. We'll get some commentary on what Mac and Jet feels is going on in the NBA playoffs. And we'll go from there talking about Mr. Durant, of course. That's one of Elder Jet's favorite guys. And we're going to be able to see what he thinks about it. You ready to go today, Elder Jet?
I am, but I wanted you to be the first partaker in our sharing of our live broadcast from your own Facebook. I would like for you to be the first partaker. They say charity starts at home and then spreads abroad.
I'm gonna do that right now, guys. So you guys do it while I'm doing it, and then we won't miss anything. But first, since it's live, you see, you get all those kind of things. I'm on my phone. I don't have it down. I have to cut my volume down. Where are we at here? There we go. Now, how do you find it? For those at home that don't know how to find it.
So just search if you're looking for it. If you don't know how to find it, you'll search in your search box Mac and Jet. You go to that page, follow it, and then you can see our live broadcast and you can share that.
Perfect.
So that you would just share.
Now I've done it, so now I can tell others to do it.
Amen.
So let's like and share. Let's like and share. And then when you see this on Mac TV $, Mac TV $, again, on Mac TV $, is our YouTube channel. So soon you will start to see all these videos on the YouTube channel along with some other talent that is going to be on Mac TV. And we want to get Mac TV to be a place that you can go to and see multiple types of content. And you'll go there and you look at some of our past shows. I'm going to put the shows on from the Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom shows that we did last year. Some of old Mike and Mike live videos, some of the different topics that we discussed, some of the interviews that we've done. That will all be on Mac TV $. So soon you will be able to put in your YouTube search Mac TV $, and see all of this content in one area. So I'm looking forward to that. And so Mike and Mike Live is going to start off with the war, Russia and Ukraine. Any thoughts on that, Elder, when you read? And what I do want to do is I want to talk kind of, plain talk. How much do you know about it? How much do you think the average person walking around here in this area in the Ohio Valley know about it?
I'm slightly familiar with the war. I'm more interested in Vladimir Putin. I've done a little research on him. So when we get into military strategy and that type of conversation, I have some input there, because I think people need to be made aware of what we're actually dealing with in who Vladimir Putin is.
And I agree with that, because and that's kind of like the players of the game is something you really need to know in order to understand the game in itself and why it's happening. And in this situation, I want to start off with some of the details. Ukraine is situated in the western side of Russia, borders Russia, and what you're going to start to see is a lot of influence from the eastern side of Ukraine. Sorry about that. The eastern side of Ukraine, where there's a lot of Russian influence. And that's where rebels have built up that's saying, hey, we really didn't never wanted to break away from the Soviet Union and not be Russian. Even though Ukraine had their independence in 1991, you had some rebels that built up an affinity for Russian this, Russian that. And Russia has seized hold of that and kind of gave
The rebels.
the rebels a lot of weapons, resources to be able to kind of be on their own to some extent. Anyway, because of that, when this war started, it was easy for them to get into Ukraine and establish a foothold there. And we already know about Crimea. Some people know about Crimea. They're on the southern part of Ukraine, and basically they are Russian controlled or Russian influenced.
Well, they are now Russia.
They are now part of Russia. Yeah. Okay, Crimea is now part of Russia, and that was a big stronghold as far as the Navy goes. A lot of ships and stuff was there, and it's a military strategic point for the waterways for Russia. So you have that geography part of where it's bordered. It's a smaller country, obviously. Russia's huge. We know that. And so this smaller country obviously is the underdog in this war. Ideology, there's a lot of nationalism. There's going to be nationalism. In other words, Ukraine now has their own government. They want their autonomy. They want to make sure that their autonomy is respected. And Russia says, in Putin's mind, has always been, no, you're still part of Russia. You may have You may have wanted that independence, but you depend on us. You need us, and we need you to be pro-Russia. And what has happened in the last 14 years, and then even more so in the last 5 years with the new president, they've become more trying to get involved with NATO and the European factions. And that has been some of the things that Putin definitely doesn't want. And that's one of the issues. And then you have the military strategy where Russia wants to make sure they have a stronghold of this area because it's very close to Europe. So if anything ever broke out, this would be an important area for them to do military strategies from Crimea, whether it's air support, whether it's down in Ukraine, whether it's down in Crimea, as far as the Navy goes. And so that's a part of this.
And vice versa.
Go ahead.
And vice versa. If NATO was to, if Ukraine was to become a partner of NATO, a part of NATO, and that would give us access to Ukraine, which is, like you said, it borders Russia. So it would give us access to military bases right on the borderline of Russia, which would be even more dangerous than when they were trying to put missiles in Cuba. We would actually have a presence there. So that's what Vladimir Putin is. He's afraid of. That's why what he's fighting against. He was proactive in his attack because he could see the writing on the wall. He could see that the president was leaning towards the liberal. He was leaning towards European culture, and he was highly interested in becoming part of NATO.
Yeah, and so when we look back at the last presidency, a lot of people's talking about how the last president wanted to get out of NATO because he felt that America was doing all the heavy lifting in NATO, which he was correct in that, and we all knew that. But there's a purpose. Anytime the United States is involved in anything, they're going to be doing the heavy lifting. Right. And a lot of the other countries in NATO, they do not have the resources. They're not a superpower. So some of that is where he's correct in that, but it's also never going to change. But what we are seeing, and this is interesting, what have you seen or read, or what do you feel about us not putting boots on the ground? If we're looking at this as Ukraine as an ally, if we're looking at this as it's our duty to spread democracy, we're looking at Ukraine being a democracy, we're looking at Russia so-called being a, communist country and dictatorship, if there is such a thing as having both of those. How do you feel about us not putting boots on the ground? Do you think we should? Where would you line up on that?
Well, it's very tricky because although Ukraine is an ally, they have not yet decided to join NATO.
Correct.
And had they already joined NATO, it would be academic because NATO's policy is if you attack a country that's in NATO, then all of the countries in NATO will come to defense of that country. So had Ukraine joined NATO already, there wouldn't be a conversation about whether we would have boots on the ground or not. We would be there, and so would the other countries that are part of NATO. So in that aspect, I think we have to keep a distance, because if we don't, we lose the cachet of joining NATO. Because if you get the benefits of NATO without joining NATO, then why join NATO?
And if you're not joined in NATO, then why? Then my question would be, then why all of the media presence that is daily, all day long, every day, about this conflict across the other side of the world? Why is America so vested in it? If you're talking about which once was Russian territory. I could see Europe being all in it, because Europe is in the same, landmass. Their proximity is close enough. I could see them being involved. It begs to differ. It begs the question of, is it what people see? When you go through YouTube and you start seeing that, it says anytime it's a European country, anytime it's a European country that's in distress, America seems to be there. But when it's a African country, when it's an Asian country, when it's a Latino country, we don't seem to intervene with the same ferocity as we do, because we know in Africa there's many countries warring, some countries bigger than the others. So, whether it's Liberia, Ethiopia, whether it's Mauritania, Uganda, Sudan, there's been many conflicts, many coups from other countries going into other countries, and we don't nearly see the daily media coverage of these things going on at all. We know what it is, but I think we need to talk about it a little more, so that people understand this thing when we talk about institutional racism, this thing when we talk about white supremacy, this thing when we talk about white privilege, this thing when we talk about how to get America to understand and to be what it says it is, what the Constitution says it is, the melting pot that we say we are. Give me a little bit on that.
I see that in multiple ways also. Naturally, anytime that United States is involved, the subject of white supremacy is going to come up. That's kind of the policy of and the spirit of European and Western government. So, with that said, they're going to protect that interest. Mm-hmm. That's why they're not in the Sudan. And then twofold, it's because when you look at a war in Africa, and you look at what they're fighting for, who's going to gain power, and what's the result of that? How will this affect me? If Sudan wins, how does that affect the United States? Mm-hmm. If another country wins, how does it affect the United States? Do I have an interest here to make sure that somebody I don't want to win doesn't win because they become stronger? And if they're my enemy, then it will put me in jeopardy. And this is what I see in the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Russia is a natural enemy of the United States. Mm-hmm. If they take the Ukraine, they become more powerful. They gain more military access. Mm-hmm. They gain more population. They gain more land. And it's land that we are romantic about, Yes. It's land that we want to set up NATO bases there. Mm-hmm. So we have an interest there to stop Putin.
Okay.
We have an interest to stop Putin. So I can see, after you see this war play out, okay, this is what happens for him. Mm-hmm. And this is what happens to me. And this is what's no longer available to me. So in that regard, I can understand one, and I see the military strategy and the long-term strategy of being involved in one thing and not the other. And mm-hmm. then there's always the race component.
Okay.
That I'm not concerned about the suffering of people who don't look like me. That's the policy of supremacist nations.
And so here's a highlight of that. I don't know if you noticed, but did you see, I guess it might have been maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, the governor of Ohio had a big press conference talking about there needs to be some talks and readiness to receive the Ukrainians who are fleeing out of Ukraine. We're in Ohio. He holds a press conference, and he has a commission now on getting ready to receive thousands of Ukrainians in the state of Ohio. Now, he did that, and I did not hear one discussion of immigrant status, immigrant status, aliens, illegal. I didn't hear not one discussion of that. But I do remember when there was some humans running from a country, fleeing a country of war for their lives, and they were coming to our borders. Nobody had a plan to receive them other than a plan to, and again, I don't want to, it's not all about the hyperbole of some of the things that happen, but sometimes when you look at pictures, it explains things. You had them on the horses, and they were, whipping those immigrants trying to come to stop them from coming. I think that highlights what we were talking about. I think that highlights that there's a vast difference when it comes to certain people and other people. And it seems what I'm disturbed about is how it's just right out there. It's in plain sight. There's no hiding it. It's just it. I would love to ask Governor DeWine is where was that same forethought to prepare for those that we could possibly receive in Ohio? And I think they were from Bolivia, maybe, or do you remember? I'm looking at you and I'm trying to get better and stay on this mic. But what do you think about that? Did you remember that at all?
No.
Okay, well, that happened. And some of you, if any of you guys know any details about that, when our governor did that, it would be great to hear from you and any comments that you have on that. But that's what I want to continue to watch. And the reason I want to continue to watch it because in this war and how we react to it, I even seen locally some of our schools getting things together to send to Ukraine. I think that's great. I just want to know what prompted this one than a litany of ongoing conflicts in other parts of the country and past conflicts in other parts of the country. If those same local entities did the same things. And if they didn't, why not? Let's move on now. I don't see any comments from our viewers right now as far as these events on Russia, but I just wanted to touch base on that from the Mac and Jet show, at least to say it's a topic that we've had and a topic that we may come back to. I wanted to just look at some of the highlights as we move in the next coming weeks.